need the dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Well, I need the dollar, 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 that's what I need. Hey, hey. Said I need the dollar.
Stealing land class people, wealth hoarders of all cultures and colors, with real love in their collective hearts, because I ain't saying this to judge, will often stand up, sign up, kick down, donate, loan, gift, or grant money, resources, time, and things to us poor folks. Sometimes they large amounts, sometimes meager, can't even count. But the sad reality is oftentimes these same folks will lose interest, get tired, bored, annoyed, burn out from our struggles or our messiness, or maybe find something more sexy, exciting, cool to do in a society that teaches us that everything should always be exciting and sexy, or otherwise, just let it go. See, the problem is when us poor, broken, houseless, disabled people become too much of a burden, our struggles become too boring to hear, our lives too messy to interfere, difficult, annoying, those people quietly disappear, fade away, move on, or just find out we aren't really easy to save. Or as we call it at Poor Magazine, drop us on our baby head. That's it. JK. Sadly, us folks caught in these struggles can't take a break. We can't leave or drop our messy lives, our children, our homelessness, our trauma, our jobs, our minds. Yet today's podcast from a poverty scholar is about that ongoing lie of saving us through charity, donations, and the lie of separation. Yeah, it's one of the many reasons my Mama D wrote her manifesto on race class privilege, which is in the Poverty Scholarship book. That's Poor People-Led Theory, Art, Words, and Tears Across Mama Earth, where she clearly explains that as wealth hoarders and all folks who come to Poor Magazine to help the poor people, coming from worlds of privilege, graduating from academic institutions where she used to say are well-educated mofos, where they continually teach about us without us, that here at Poor Magazine, we'll ask them from the beginning to do the work that may not be exciting. The admin work that us poor folks don't have the time to do, the skills, or the money to pay for. She would call them out on what I call their organizational privilege, which means they had a roof over their head, clothes on their back, and shoes on their feet, so they could even get into those privileged streets, which is a concept that we break down at People School. It's a longer conversation, but this is Mama D's medicine, no matter how hard that pill is to swallow. It's also why we don't fuck with what I affectionately call philanthropimping or charity or donations or any of these settler colonial concepts rooted in the fake-ass belief that all us poor folks need are some nice rich people to take care of us. Yeah, the roots of philanthropimping, which I have written about extensively in the Poverty Scholarship book and in previous blogs and podcasts, is a settler colonial wealth hoarder, land stealer lie. The first philanthropimps, as I call them, were benevolent slave owners, stealing land and killing indigenous peoples. These were the ones who treated their slaves well. Similarly, the first endowments, which are huge amounts of money given to these AKKdemia institutions, were to study eugenics, to rationalize killing indigenous, disabled, and poor people. So contrary to all those charity model lies, we root all support that's distributed to us and the over 830 fellow houseless and very low income housed people we radically share with, break bread with, and support in the streets every week in a concept that I call radical redistribution, ComeUnity reparations, and unselling Mama Earth. Another powerful example of this kind of redistribution is the Shumi land tax, a model of reparations created by First Nations Ohlone Lishan land liberator, fierce women from Segorite Land Trust. You see, community reparations and indigenous land taxes are not charity or donations, grants, loans, favors, or nice acts done by benevolent rich people. These are revolutionary acts of dismantling and unlearning wealth-hoarding, land-stealing capitalism. Yes, I did say capitalism, that teaches people to hoard, store, pinch, and steal more than they or their families would ever need to live on, survive on, or be safe. It has wealth hoarders loaded up with a lot of lies about how much they know about money and giving just because they were born into it, as opposed to us poor folks who've had to figure out how to feed and house entire families, elders, babies with next to nothing. It has peoples with pieces of paper from institutions thinking they know more about poverty, disability, land, struggle, colonization, and incarceration because they studied it for 2 to 8 years, rather than people who have lived their entire lives in poverty, struggling with ableism, classism, incarceration, colonial terror, and beyond. Yeah, this is something I'm going to get into in part 2 of this particular podcast. And after this powerful unlearning, decolonizing, and teaching that us poor peoples do with rich folks in people school, the conscious wealth hoarders become revolutionary reparators. They launch the Solidarity family. They do their own rich people organizing, dismantling, not telling, not helping, but working alongside us poor people so that we can do what we know works for each other. And community reparations enables us poor folks to do for self. We created the Bank of ComeUnityReparations, which immediately redistributes cash and resources to whoever needs it, from mamas who need hoopties fixed to people who need motels rented so they can get a roof over their head immediately, so they can get off the street and not die, to move-in fees for houseless families, to rent payments when you don't got the rent. And none of these radical redistribution support ever has no ridiculous applications or budgets we have to submit or receipts or proof. Because we know what each other needs. And in addition, we've created the Emergency Love Work Team, the love worker team that provides fellow poor folks with cleaning and moving and other immediately needed support. These are poverty scholarship informed projects that immediately solve problems that we struggle with all the time. A great example of the colonial arrogance is the way that so many corporations and individuals give away crap, from computers to old clothes to dirty torn blankets and more, like they were doing us poor folks a favor. In a recent sleeping bag and tent drive by Poor Magazine, even though we specifically asked with humility and love, only sleeping bags in good condition or tents, preferably new, socks, warm gloves, warm hats. I got so many bags of someone's trash. Old clothes that weren't even warm, dirty towels, shoes with holes in them. It was so disrespectful, which then, of course, we had to spend money to get rid of. Yeah. Paying the landfill. Another time, a giant multi-billion-dollar tech firm had this scholar go pick up a computer donation. which I happily did, thinking, yay, this will help us create our computer lab for our fellow houseless and formerly houseless youth and adults and families. I got there only to find 5 broken hard drives sitting in a paper bag by the elevator with a Post-it note that said, "For the poor people." Yeah, I wish I could tell you that happened once in a while, but it happens all the time. Everything from food to supplies, food that ain't nobody should eat, to things that nobody can use. Free, as an elder once told me, is worth what you pay for it. Yeah, sometimes these donations to us houseless and poor people, who are often equated with trash in rich people's minds, it's just that, trash. The Bank of ComeUnityReparations efforts by Poor Magazine and Radical Redistribution, or mutual aid efforts by Self-Help Hunger Program, Oakland Brown Beret, Segurite, Land Trust, Homies Empowerment, Community Ready Corps, Kenny Harding Foundation, and others are actively supporting hundreds of families a week with diapers, food, medicine, groceries, produce. This is self-determination and interdependence. Poor People's Army, led by us poor, black, brown, indigenous, and houseless people. It ain't charity. And it never gets boring. And it never gets unsexy.
Share your dollar with me. Bad times are coming and I reap what I done sow. Hey, hey. Well, let me tell you something. All that glitters ain't gold. Hey, hey. It's been a long old troublesome road. And I'm looking for somebody come and help me